So I'm not a climate expert, but what the modeling I've seen tells me that we're in for more unpredictability, more extreme events, and generally speaking, at least in the British Columbia context, drier, hotter, longer wildfire seasons, which could generate more lightning. In any case, will provide a very fertile ground for wildfires. So we're probably going to see a continuance of frequent wildfires, intense wildfires, and it could get worse unless we take some measures to try and mitigate the risk. Well, what the health professionals have told me in all the years I've worked in this field from the air quality side is that the long-term exposure, especially from fine particulate matter, it poses serious health consequences throughout your life. But the short-term impact of wildfire smoke at very high levels, we're only beginning to understand whether or not they have long-term effects. But anyway you look at it, inhaling smoke at elevated levels, which contains the fine particulate matter, is not good for your health. Well, there's a number of programs that have been launched since some of the early severe wildfires in 2003, for example, and 2015 later. We've got community hazard fuel reduction programs where the government and local governments work together to identify how they can thin trees around the community edges, how they can remove dead firewood that basically is fuel for a forest fire. So but those will not so much prevent wildfires as hopefully mitigate the risk to the community of going up in flames. One thing we can do, we know about 40% of the fires on average are caused by humans each year. Clearly those are totally preventable fires. So if people didn't throw cigarettes out the window, made sure their campfires were doused, were careful when they're off-roading to not create sparks and so on, right away that would reduce the number of forest fires. Whether it would reduce the total impact, because a very small percentage of very large fires create most of the smoke, we don't know, but it would certainly could reduce the number of fires. There's lots of things that going on, and this comes down to our local health authorities, local governments. They've been working very hard over the recent years to inform the public about steps they can take. So be prepared. If you live in an area that's prone to wildfires, so the south or central interior of the province, you know, if you don't have air conditioning, which some people don't, then you've got to look for alternative ways to find somewhere to protect yourself from the smoke. There are indoor air filters that you can buy, but also communities are setting up increasingly some shelters where you can go both for temperature relief but also protection from smoke. But knowing that in advance, knowing what your options are, is the most important thing that individuals can do, and for organizations like the health authorities, local governments and the province, it's making sure they've got that information to help prepare their own plan. I think we have to build on that preparation theme, so accept the fact that unless every stick of wood is burnt around your community, you could be prone, I think, to wildfire risk. We've also got to look at areas that traditionally have not had significant wildfires, so the coastal regions, Vancouver Island. I live on Vancouver Island. We're sitting on a powder keg, and I don't think we're really doing enough to prepare and remove that risk because, well, gosh, we don't get big fires. They only happen in the interior. So I think that mindset has to shift. I think as well, we have a lot of forestry operations. They generate a lot of slash and non-usable products from a timber perspective, and we've got to find ways of removing that forest hazard in a better way that doesn't generate smoke through slash burning and doesn't leave a fire hazard on the floor. So I think there's a lot of things we can do that will not eliminate the risk of wildfires, but can actually perhaps help push them away from communities, and that's really what we're concerned about as human life and property.